If you hear anything today,
make sure it is this.
tag along for the deep dives in gaming and movies, music, and much more.
So, wherever you are, relax and join us for the Red Pony Podcast. Welcome, everybody, to the Red Pony. What the hell is going on here? Well, let me tell you right now, ladies and gentlemen, that we are a new entity. Welcome to the Red Pony Podcast, live to you from myself, Joshua Butcher, and my good friend, Peter Floria. So today, the new name, what is it? Why are we doing this? Good question. The reason is we decided to change from Sauvignon Blanc, probably because it's first of all, too hard to spell, and second of all, it's a bit weird that we are named after a wine. So we decided to rebrand ourselves, and this is a new incarnation of our podcast. So for those of you who have been following us, just to let you know what's been going on. Before we crack on to what we've got so much to share, but the first thing is we have a completely new structure that we're bringing forward for the podcast. And so if you're here for the first time, let me explain to you what we provide for you. So we provide news, and we're going to talk about games, movies, television, perhaps some other realms of information too, but it's going to be condensed and short for you guys at the start of every podcast. Furthermore, we're going to do reviews. So we play a lot of games, we watch a lot of movies, and we know a lot of stuff about it. So we're going to bring you our information about that too. And then we're also going to do deep talks. So if we have something we think is important, fascinating, interesting, you name it, we'll talk about it in a lot of depth. And lastly, we've taken some inspiration from a lot of other people on YouTube, and we like to do our own pitches and talk about our own ideas for movies, games, and television and more. And last but not least, I'd like to say that in every podcast or YouTube, wherever you're listening or watching, we will have timestamps so you can go along and select where you want to check out and listen to or what's the most important. And before we crack on, just one very last little detail, please. If you'd like to reach out to us, holler at us. You can speak to us on Discord and on YouTube. Now let's start the show. So, Pete, how are you, man? How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right. Finished my dissertation and
congratulations.
And I'm still studying because we have more to do.
Yes, you and I both are pursuing a legal career, so therefore we are always busy.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah, that's why we haven't uploaded in a little while, because we've been working on that. But yeah, I'm good now. I'm ready to get back into it. How about you?
Yeah, likewise, man. And we had like a big, long chat over the last few days, and we've been thinking what to do and how to bring this back into a more better incarnation. And we've come up with Red Pony. Do we want to talk about why we did this? Because I think...
So I think for a lot of our followers who like music, they probably know where we're coming from. But there's this band called Deftones, which we both really like. Maybe I a little bit more, but yeah. They have this album, which was revolutionary when it came out, called White Pony. And we really like the theme of it, because it has like a humanist theme to it, but it also has elements of space and something ethereal about it. And we just really like that theme, and we decided to incorporate it into what we do, because it's a theme which is kind of expansive, and what we do is also kind of expansive, because we talk about a very large variety of things. So that's kind of why we called it.
Yeah, that's a good way of explaining it, actually. I didn't think of the expansiveness of what we provide. God, we are so good. All right. No, but yeah, absolutely. And it's nice to be back, and we are kicking full force off with some latest news. And we always try to keep the most important stories, I would say, to what we do. We don't really want to talk about all of the bits of random information that come out, because there's lots, right? But we have, in fact, I think 6 to 8 key stories we want to quickly go over now.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the first leap and talk a little bit about Valve. So Valve, in recent years, they haven't really been doing much in the industry, as we all know. Instead, what they have been doing is reaping the profits of Steam, working a little bit into the online esports sphere with Counter-Strike and Dota. But just recently, they released the new Half-Life Alyx game. Yeah. And it seems to me they're starting to go on a more of a, what would you say, an investment path? Because there's some reports going around. These guys are making some sort of portable PC console now.
Right.
These I'd like to just add, these reports are somewhat credible. So, Pete, what?
I mean, first of all, we've already kind of talked about Valve, really. And what we see there, the new direction of them being, because they've also signed on to make some new IPs. So
Yes.
just to not repeat ourselves, basically, we think Valve is back in the fray now, and they're starting to be interested in making games and revolutionize gaming. So yeah,
They're
that's
back in the game.
that's back in the game pretty much. But this is talking about something else, specifically the PC console thing. I mean, it's very credible because they already tried to have their own ecosystem, right? Because they have their Steam controller, their controversial Steam controller, and they have their own Steam VR, which is compatible with a bunch of things. And yeah, it seems like they want to turn themselves into like the Steam ecosystem in a sense. And if they would be providing their own console as well, that would be interesting. Although, do you think that a PC console has the potential for success? Because what that is basically just a pre-built PC. And
Right.
if somebody's into PC gaming, they probably know how to build their own PC. So I just can't really wrap my head around what the branding would be for something like a PC console. What do you think?
My first thought is, are they going to sell this at a loss like Microsoft does with their Xbox? Because if that's the case, then maybe people can get their hands on more powerful hardware for a more affordable price. So if that's the case, of course, Steam can obviously remedy this just with their store, right? That's how they make most of their money. So in that sense, it could be really good for a lot of consumers, but really unsure, you know? I don't understand why they're doing this quite really, because it's not really the console market they're trying to break into. It's the PC market.
Wait, sorry to interrupt. Is it definitely a PC console or is it a console?
It is a portable, which is a really weird word, portable. We didn't talk about that yet, but it's a portable PC console.
They specifically said PC console. Okay.
Yes.
So that means that it's not going to be like a Steam console where they have their own OS. It's going to read running Windows probably or something like that.
That's a good question. We actually don't know that. The thing is, it's codenamed Steam Pal, and there's no confirmation on any hardware, software specifics. All we understand that, according to a couple of resources I've read, it's a Switch-esque portable gaming PC. So that might change.
A Switch-esque one.
So that
okay. Well, then maybe.
So what do you think that means, really? Like, how does handheld equipment go hand in hand with portable PC? How does that work in your view? What do you think?
That's interesting because what the Switch does is something that is theoretically cool, which is it's both handheld and it's a console. So it has like this dual nature to it. However, their console aspect is kind of not great for Switch. The Switch is an excellent handheld piece of hardware, but the console aspect is pretty much a scam, and it's also way overpriced. So they would have to fix the pricing for the Steam thing. I'm wondering if, I don't think it's going to be cloud-based because there's so many players in the cloud-based market now. There's NVIDIA with their GeForce Now, and there's Google Stadia. And there was also Shadow PC. But if anything, what these companies have shown us is that it's very hard to actually make cloud gaming work, because all of these companies are having severe issues. Stadia seemed like it might have been able to do it, but it seems like they're going down as well now. Shadow PC is out of business, and GeForce Now is kind of just in a void, doing not much of anything. So I think that there's going to be actual hardware in it. I don't think it's going to be like some weird cloud-based thing. I don't know. The engineering would have to be very impressive.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. You know what I'm thinking more, which worries me? It might be more into the mobile market, because let's face it, that's where the money is. That's where all the guys are going, especially like most gamers nowadays, which is weird. I still don't get that. Does anyone else get that?
I mean, I get the idea behind mobile gaming. It would be incredible to have like something that is just incredibly powerful and handheld, and you're at an airport somewhere, let's say, and you can fucking play Dark Souls on it or something like that, and then you go home and you plug it into your TV, and it's just very convenient and nice to have that type of versatility. And the name of the game in the modern world we live in is convenience and comfort, and making things to be incorporated into your life like a jigsaw piece. But that doesn't change the fact that the execution of the mobile gaming market is a dumpster fire, and I don't understand how anybody could like willingly be a part of it. But yeah.
Yeah, and the execution of it is all about in-game purchases and loot boxes and these kinds of mechanisms. I also wanted to ask one last question before we move on. Do you think that touch controls are the future? Because for me, I hate them. I resent them. I think a lot of gamers out there really don't like them. That's kind of why some companies are bringing out controllers for handheld phones. But why are some companies pushing for it? It kind of seems like that's...
Are they? Who's pushing?
I think some games have shown that companies can use it. Like, for example, Call of Duty Warzone on the phone.
Right.
Such a huge player base.
But that's out of necessity.
Maybe
a lot of people who are like hardcore about the mobile gaming, they connect a controller to it. Like that's still,
they should, yeah.
That's kind of like
I hope they do.
a physical controller is still just the way to go for now.
Yeah.
I think the future, if anything's like a very far away future, is not touch based. I think it's augmented. So augmented reality. That's the far away future. Because I'm sure VR is not the best now and it's expensive, but VR is gonna work. I think Valve, as we said, Valve can see that. But yeah.
All right then, Bob. Okay. Well, I think we talked enough. Please, if you've got one of your particular stories, P, we can discuss. Bring it forth.
Yeah, it's not really a story, but I think we'll have an interesting conversation about it. Far Cry 6 tomorrow. We're going to be having what I assume is the gameplay reveal, and we have differing opinions in terms of excitement about it. I am I'm not like blindly excited for it because Far Cry 5 was horrible. Not horrible, but it wasn't great, and that the Ubisoft formula is really starting to get stale. But I am still, for some reason, excited about Far Cry 6 because I think that trailer that they showed at E3 was amazing. It was a work of art, like especially in terms of the effects of how everything looped, the images looped into each other, like the coffee cup turned into like a car tire and stuff of that sort. And I liked, of course, that they're using Gustavo Fring
Gustavo Fring.
At least the tone, the atmosphere, and like just the artistic merits of the game seems to be very good. However, that's generally the case with Far Cry games. I feel like almost all Far Cry games have like a very well helmed and done theme and atmosphere. It's just the gameplay and everything that makes it a game can sometimes fall stale. So that remains to be seen. We'll find out tomorrow.
Yeah. So with the it's gameplay, isn't it? Coming out tomorrow.
Yeah, it's gameplay. I think it's a new reveal. I assume it'll be gameplay because we already have a trailer. So yeah.
Yeah, I have in my notes that it's gameplay and it's coming out May 28th at 9:30 a.m. PDT. You can translate that to your current time zone. So, so I kind of like you really said about how Far Cry 5 was bad. That's my main concern, and I don't think I've enjoyed a Far Cry properly since 3. And I actually feel like there's a lot of themes in this current trailer from E3 that are reminiscent of the previous Far Cry. I'm a bit concerned it's going to follow along the same path line with like the Ubisoft formula where the map is kind of split into sections and you have to explore each section and complete each section. I want it to be more like Breath of the Wild and what we've seen recently. But what do you think?
Right.
Do you have any predictions for what maybe you expect you will have in this free roaming game? What kind of free roaming mechanics do you expect? No,
I absolutely think it'll stay Ubisoft. Because it's a story, like that's what Ubisoft loves. Which I like it too, to be honest. I think I'm one of the few people who likes this theme, but it's just about revolting in a military state, which is overrun by corruption. But the allies that you fight for are also douchebags, and it's just like a really colorful environment full of douchebags, and you're like the one soldier of truth fighting within it, and you take care of different areas, you liberate them, and I think that's going to stay, but I'm hoping that I guarantee that's going to stay. They're not going to be changing it to something completely different, but I feel like there is still room for improvement and minute change within the formula. And I feel like they could do a lot where I think the biggest issue with this formula is how transparent and not subtle it is and how simplistic it is, because you liberate a zone and then it's just liberated. It doesn't show any of the impact that it has on the surroundings. It doesn't show how it impacts the people. It's just like an Excel spreadsheet. Okay,
Yeah, right.
this 0 is now a 1, and if they would be able to like actually, because everybody tries to sell this, they're like, your actions are gonna be able to dynamically impact the world around you, and that never happens. I can't think of a single game where that actually happens. Maybe with the technology they have now and with the talent they have, they could actually have your actions impact the script and the writing of the story. I don't expect that to happen.
I think would be
what I would
too
like.
hopeful for that.
Yeah.
Pete, I just want to make sure we're both aware of this and our audience. I'm sure you recall Ubisoft recently saying about what they want to change their business model to do, right? They want to change to free to play, and they want to they want to do to like, is it AA games they want to move to instead of mostly focusing on. So that's worrying, right? That doesn't signal any hope for me for this game, because let's face it, why would they do that if this game?
I mean, it's worrying, but it's funny. Ubisoft, ironically, is a company that I think actually does listen to consumers. Honestly, think about it a little bit. I think that they're a very reactionary company, and that one of their big flaws is that they do listen to consumers. And the consumers are a bunch of douchebags who don't know what they want. And that's what's led to the whole conundrum of Assassin's Creed. Like, everybody was like, it's so boring and horrible. Why do you have to go back to Ezio all the time? And like, changed it up. It's linear. And then they change it up. And then they're like, well, this is trash. Why the fuck did you make it
too different now?
Yeah, it's too different. They actually listen to the consumers, but the consumers don't actually want what they actually claim they want. And now everybody's hating on these new sets of RPGs they're making and everything. And then they're like, well, instead of dealing with these picky fuckers, I could just switch to a multiplayer free-to-play game like Valorant, a AA one, and just completely cash out, and nobody complains because the people who play those games are happy with the formula, you know?
Yeah.
But that's just my take on it. Yeah.
No, I think you're true. I think you're highlighting a good point about what consumers are like and what we.
By the way, I'm not blind to the fact that companies generally rightfully so, don't listen to consumers. They listen to the shareholders, and I understand that. And that's what I said for Cyberpunk. You can't blame the fans for what happened to Cyberpunk, but I do I don't know, for some weird reason, I think that with Ubisoft, they do kind of listen to consumers, which
If I may condition that, the ending point is really you have to make a judgment call on if you listen or not, and it's up to you to make that decision. So aside from Far Cry, which comes out, the gameplay trailer comes out tomorrow, I also want to say Dying Light 2, they've released some sort of gameplay trailer today. There's a new one today, and
I actually haven't seen that.
Well, I'm not sure if it's out this moment, but it'll definitely be out time this podcast is live. But
okay.
Essentially, it's some sort of press information event with gameplay footage that is new, and I think we're going to get a release date. I've been told.
Wow,
so
that's surprising coming from the previous articles and scandal they've had, where it's like they're in a rut and they're having trouble finishing the game, and now we have a release date. That's interesting.
Now, this game I'm really excited for, because
me too.
I think this game is going to be quite an improvement on the first, and it's going to be much more focused on the story narratives of making differences. And I have high hopes for this game.
Yeah, me too. I've got to be honest, even though the news we had earlier was not good, but hopefully they fixed their issues. But I actually am one of the people who I quite enjoyed the first Dying Light. Because the only major issue the game had was that the characters were fucking paper. They were just dull as hell, and the overarching story wasn't too bad. It was just the characters, because it put you in that place which most games put you, where you're just the bag boy for a bunch of different douchebags. You do this for them as a favor for that, and that only works if you like the people that you're dealing with, but they were all boring. So hopefully they fix the characterization, and they really are going hard with this whole thing where your actions impact the world around you. There remains to be seen, but I also, for some reason, I'm high of expectations for it.
Yeah. And I suppose I wonder if they'll take more of a Mass Effect approach, where you have elements of good and evil in your character you can choose and manifest in the world. So I'd like to see that in this kind of game, because
hopefully not too close to Mass Effect.
Well, here's the thing.
Because the issue with Mass Effect is that all of the renegade choices are stupid as hell. Like, it's just being a douchebag for the sake of being a douchebag, which means nobody picks them. People just go Paragon. I would like the I would like it to be more akin to something like the game Tyranny, where it kind of makes sense. But yeah.
Okay, cool. A few more remaining stories to be stated. One thing I think that is important to mention, it's on a development in technology, especially in software development. Unreal Engine 5 is now in early access. Just repeat that, Unreal Engine 5. I remember when we were in 3. So we're in the territory of masterful, creative, procedural design work for games in the future. And I don't know. I just feel like you need to sit back a moment and if you go to unrealengine.com and go to their recent blog, you can see that it's in early access and people are starting to use it. And it looks phenomenal. Just phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And, Unreal Engine at one point or another wasn't the best looking piece of, what would you even call it? It's a system of operations, I suppose. Design work. Yeah, it didn't even look the best. It's an engine. That's it. That's the word. And it looks phenomenal now. And also, speaking of phenomenal looking games, Battlefield 6 trailer soon to be released soon. There's been some leaks through Reddit and through various posts, and we've seen like some glimpses of what the trailer looks like. Can I ask you, Pete, are you interested in a Battlefield, a new next generation Battlefield game?
I mean, I love the Battlefield franchise. I just haven't been very interested in it in a while. I don't know. I would love if they could go back to something like Battlefield Bad Company 2 or even Battlefield 3. Like
3 was good.
They haven't been like what they can be for a while. So whilst I like the franchise and I'll still take a look, I'm not super excited for new Battlefield games anymore.
Yeah. I'm excited for the graphical end, I suppose. That's really it, just to see how it will look.
Yeah, I mean, they're always visually cool.
Usually the leaders in graphics design. So that's something to look forward to see. But one thing that really upset me, just to conclude this story, is that Battlefield 6 will be on old consoles too. So they basically came out and stated this is a next generation title, a truly next generation title, but they have optimized and developed it for the old systems too. So therefore, one would assume that this development isn't going to be truly next generation because they've accounted for the last consoles as well.
Yeah, but that's pretty common with consoles in general. That's why the exclusives are generally the games which are the most visually stunning and impressive because they're made with a specific optimization in mind. Consoles will always account for older hardware and limitations. It's just the way it is. Like I'm still fine with it. I still think it's a good world that we have with consoles because people can afford good stuff. But imagine a world where people optimize stuff for PC, for the latest PC hardware. That would be crazy.
Instead of crappy PC.
But that's that would be cool. But I wouldn't be able to afford it. Like most people wouldn't be able to afford it. So, yeah.
Oh, unless you get the portable PC Steam Lab console, maybe you can.
Right, maybe.
So, some final stories to summarize and conclude our news section of this week. We have the release of the brand new PlayStation Plus games, which I think are awful. I mean, I think this is a big joke and slap in the face. We've got Operation Tango, Virtua Fighter 5, and Star Wars Squadrons. I don't know if anyone wants to play these games.
Is a okay pick.
Star Wars Squadrons is a mediocre pick, I guess, but it's better than nothing. But I think the other two games are an insult. I don't really think.
I mean, it's a luck of the draw, right? Sometimes you get some good ones. Sometimes there might be some people who are super into Operation Tango.
Yeah, true.
I don't know what it is, but
that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
But you know what I find always fascinating, and this is something I always recommend anyone to look out for. Whenever you see a game going for free through the PlayStation Plus or Xbox systems, usually that means the developer is working on something else, in my opinion. And then they're trying to publicize and promote it through giving their other game for free. They've done this with other games. And when I see Squadrons, I'm thinking, well, is there going to be a new Star Wars game at some point?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'm sure there will be.
I mean, soon? I don't know, because what was the last game called again that they released? It was quite good. No, not before Squadrons.
Oh, Fallen Order.
Fallen Order. So maybe we'll get a sequel to that at some point. I hear Fallen Order was good. I never played it, but
I never played it too, despite it being right up my alley. I love Souls-like experiences of that sort. I don't know why I never played it.
For me, it was just the main character actually that put me off.
Yeah, I heard he's a bit of a blank slate, but yeah.
But I to each his own. I've heard that game's quite solid, so nevertheless. And the last point I wanted to mention was just that I like to talk about Cyberpunk here because it was one of the most biggest flops ever, but it's still not on the PlayStation Store. No joke. No, obviously that's fair enough. You know, it hasn't been there for a while. But Sony has said that it needs to reach 30 FPS consistently before they release it. So doesn't that highlight the amount of optimization problems that CD Projekt Red have had?
Well, I think it's I don't know if I'm not an expert, but to me it seems like an impossible task to get Cyberpunk to run at 30 FPS on those consoles. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I guess that's it for now. So, section 2 of the podcast. We're going to talk about what we have been playing recently and talk about some ideas for reviewing these games and movies, etc., and some critiques. So, Pete, what have you been playing this week?
I've actually been playing Days Gone because it came out on PC, and so I bought it. I decided to check it out because I like open world games, and generally I'm quite lenient with how they range in quality. I just like the formula, so I decided to check it out. And I don't know, I'm actually really enjoying it so far. I think it really nails some elements. It nails the verticality of the map, I think. Is really impressive. I haven't seen that done in a game.
How do you mean by verticality, by the way?
Like actual veritable verticality that you play with. Verticality, by that I mean just how the map is built with mountains and hills and then underground areas and how you move between them and how often you move between them. And Days Gone, there's a really cool feeling where you're up above somewhere like on a hill and then you're overlooking a base that you're about to take over from below. And it really nails that feeling. The audio is really good to indicate that you're in a three-dimensional space. And the game just kind of feels good. Riding the bike it feels so awesome. The combat is really cool. I like the survival elements. And the game is even dynamic to a certain extent with the things you can do in it. And I like that they went for a smaller map because you can get acquainted to the map in the way that you used to get acquainted to it when you played GTA Vice City as a kid.
So it's a small map.
It's not a small map, but it's not as big as
not as big
Assassin's Creed Valhalla, let's say. So, or Red Dead or something like that. So you can kind of get acquainted to it, and whenever you move past the place, you're like, oh, look, I did this over here and I made these choices. And there was even a part where like a whole day had passed. And then I went back to this area next to a lake and I could see all the marauders that I killed that hijacked me.
Oh, wow.
At one point they were still there. So it has issues though. The main character is just like a tough biker dude whose wife died. He's kind of funny sometimes. He has a good sense of humor sometimes, but overall he's not particularly interesting. However, the game makes up for that because most of the other characters you meet are actually quite compelling, and the visually it's really cool, of course, as most Sony exclusives are, and the story is okay. Yeah.
So how far are you through the overall main story?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to look, but I've played a good 30-something hours of it. So 30 hours.
From what I've played about an hour of the game as it came out on PlayStation Plus, and I played an hour, and I felt the general I agree with you on the motorcycle stuff. That was very cool. That was the one thing I really liked was how you actually traversed the land. I thought it was really cool. I just didn't get it. I just didn't give it enough time to really get into it. I think that's probably what a lot of people might do. From what I can gather, the game looks quite solid overall. From what I understand, it's not a terrific game, but it's a good game. Like it's a good game. It's
yeah. That's where the whole thing comes in. It's not Red Dead Redemption 2, okay? But a lot of games aren't really. It's very much a genre game. It's very much an open world game with most of the issues open world games have, but it refines on a lot of the a lot of areas which aren't refined in others, which can make it a very enjoyable game, really, if you like the genre. So, yeah.
Any bugs on the PC port? How is the smoothness of the port generally?
No, honestly, no bugs. It's a ridiculously good port. I'm running it at high settings near 60 FPS on my laptop.
Great to hear. That's good.
Like it's a very good port. I'm kind of surprised. And honestly, playing the game, it makes me sad that we're probably not going to get Days Gone 2 now, because I feel like they could have done something cool with it. Another thing which the game does really well, there's hordes in the game. It's kind of a pseudo feature because you don't get to interact with them too much, but when you do, it actually is. You feel like you get kind of scared by the scale of them. Like, it's actually impactful. And one more criticism is that the upgrading for the bike really lazy, really linear and lazy, which sucks because it's just very linear. You just gain trust with this camp and then pay for the next part. You don't get to choose between stuff. You just linearly just rebuild your bike, which is very disappointing after playing a game like Mad Max, another open world game, where you have like a bunch of different chassis for your car and then variations within those chassis, and you can have a completely different vehicle. Yeah.
Maybe it should have like a Forza Motorsport system where you could completely redesign and revamp the bike every part.
Yeah,
that would be
granted, there should be some realism here because it's a zombie apocalypse.
Yes,
you probably don't have access to like super like expert engineers.
No, I wouldn't say so. That's cool. Okay. So would you recommend it to people overall? Say someone's watching this and they're thinking about buying it. Maybe the price is still at the max. Is it worth the price?
If you'd like actually, if you know that you're a core fan of open world games, buy it. You'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
If you're the type of person who only likes open world games when they're like perfect, when they're amazing, don't buy it then, really.
Maybe wait for a sale.
Yeah, wait for a sale.
I mean, it will go on sale eventually, but from what I understand, it's selling a lot of copies, so I don't think it will go on sale for a while.
Yeah, that's another good thing, because I think it's selling like even better than it did on console when it came out.
Millions, I think. It's hit a couple of million.
Which goes to show not all PC gamers are just pirates who don't buy the games and they're not worth like selling games to. I think this shows that if anything, exclusivity is doing like worse for your game. For some people, you should release these games on PC. But yeah,
and
what have you been playing?
Before we move on, one thing about inclusivity: Uncharted 4 is coming to PC.
What?
Yeah, it was it was confirmed in like some leaked docs, and I read it on PlayStation Reddit forum. Yep, Uncharted 4 is coming to PC. So that's really exciting as well.
That's cool. I've played Uncharted.
You've played it. I've played it. Everyone has played this game if you've had access to it.
I mean, it's still great that it's coming out. I really, really hope there's 2 games which I need to come out on PC. I want Bloodborne to fucking come out on PC already, and Ghost of Tsushima. I really want to play
Ghost of Tsushima, baby. Oh, what a game that is. And like, there was a big war going on between Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima for Game of the Year. And I was saying to everyone that I spoke to, Ghost of Tsushima should win this. And it's not because I think Last of Us 2 is bad. I played it. I loved it. I actually was one of the very few people who loved the game overall. But Ghost of Tsushima was a masterpiece of the open world design, and it really nailed it. And the characters, the story, it was all great. The combat, everything was perfect.
I also like that it's not just another third-person shooter. It's like it takes place in like Japan, which is something that for some reason doesn't get exploited enough. So
and it's authentic, cool. Man. It's authentic, and you feel like the earth.
You know what I heard? I heard that the mayor of Tsushima, they named the developers of the game like the ambassador for tourism or something like that for Tsushima. So yeah, that's cool. And
I read something along the lines of that Jin Sakai, the voice actor who plays him, may be in a movie where they actually create Ghost of Tsushima, the movie, and he may actually play the part. So that'd be cool.
I mean, dope.
Yeah, man. So it's pretty cool. Yeah. Okay. Well,
what have you been playing?
I have been playing the Mass Effect trilogy that has recently come out remastered. And I, as a person who had never played the original Mass Effect games, it's been an absolute joy. It really has. And I've lost myself into these. I've played the first one currently, and I'm about 3/4 of the way through the second one. So therefore, no fucking spoilers, you bastard. Because I hear shit's gonna hit the fan soon. I'm really enjoying these games. I'm not gonna lie. Like, for me, to summarize generally how I feel about them, it feels like when I first played The Witcher 3, and it's kind of like getting involved into that world. You're just in it, man, and you're like, I'm really enjoying every character I meet, every plot I go through. I have some gripes with it.
That's the difference, because I would say that except for one, they're not necessarily the best RPGs ever, but what they nail is the world. I think it's like one of the best sci-fi worlds in general across media, because it's like so detailed and well realized and believable despite the fantasy
Yeah.
of it. And I think that's kind of what makes them, because it invites you to immerse yourself in this world, and it has a character which is good enough to view the world through, which is also what they did with Witcher. So there's a parallel
You're
there.
absolutely right. And
Yep.
to be fair, Shepard himself is not the most, would you say, interesting, but it's the way you build him. You can choose
Exactly.
his moral compass and the way he treats people. And I think that's what makes it. It is a vice to view the landscape, but it works really well.
Yeah.
So a few things that have absolutely shocked me. If you haven't played this game, I couldn't recommend it enough, actually, especially the remaster. Before talking about technical stuff, I was so surprised in the first game of how well done the politics was. I really enjoyed the classism, the race wars, the discussions that you meet. Everyone's got motivations, everyone's got prejudices, and it's all on display. It's just so interesting because you're meeting such it kind of gets you to look at your own thoughts on how you treat stuff, and you know, it's very cool. And naturally, I did become quite a paragon pursuing player. I accidentally did choose a lot of renegade choices in the second game, and it's been going terribly. I don't recommend Renegade, but in the first game, Renegade results in really cringy decisions. Essentially,
Exactly. Yeah.
But in the second game, it's not so bad.
Yeah.
You kind of seem somewhat badass, but it's kind of cringe. Yeah.
But yeah, Mass Effect, the first one, is definitely like one of the best RPGs. Really, I think it's the best in the series. It is really unfortunate that they didn't remake it, because I feel like Mass Effect 1 was a game that was worth a remake, like a top to bottom systemic, like with the actual systems, how they worked, because they are quite dated now, and they just remastered it, which I found kind of bad.
I'm surprised too, because I've been interested to see how it developed onwards from here. So I haven't played 3 yet, but I've seen how it runs, and it runs a bit better than 2. And the same for Andromeda, because Andromeda really looks quite beautiful, and the gameplay, there's actually mobility in it now, apparently.
Yeah, except for the faces, of course.
I've heard some really dog shit stuff about Andromeda, but that's not the point. I think I agree with you. The one overarching criticism is perhaps they could have changed the gameplay to make it a bit more modern across the systems.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they should have done, but
But at the cost of that, they still have gave a new lick of paint on it, which does make the first game looks a lot better than what the previous one looked. Oh my god, it looked bad. The original Mass Effect was very dated, and this.
Do you really think it looks that much better? It looks like a new lick of paint.
Just from like a side by side comparison, I've noticed it looks pretty bad. Aside from that, a few decisions I've made that I'd like to talk about. So in the first game, I play as a male shepherd, and in the second game, I'm playing as the same male shepherd. I pursued a Paragon profile. I sacrificed the Citadel. Spoiler alert. At the end, I did that because fuck those guys. I thought they were absolutely useless and they didn't help anyone. So I thought, screw them. What else? I'm trying to think of other big decisions. I saved Ash, obviously. I pursued a romantic relationship with her, and in the second game, I've met my favorite character,
and that is
Jack.
Oh, really?
I
He's
love
your favorite
Jack.
one.
She's so cool. She's so cool, and you actually get a really interesting romance scene with her.
By the way, I'm gonna. Did you saved Garrus, right?
Yeah, I saved Garrus. Yeah.
Okay, good. I don't know anybody who hasn't, but
is that in specifically in 2, where he's being hunted by the gangs or the mercenaries? Yeah. I saved him. God, yeah. And I've basically been right now playing through an episode in the second game, all the loyalty missions, and I'm trying to get all of my squad to like me and trust me. It's really great system. The whole ship dynamic is incredible. You can traverse the ship. You have a beautiful, fully functioning spaceship, and you can talk to all your crew. I love how the solar system is designed, and you use the mass relays to get through. It's just, honestly, it's such a groundbreaking, well done game, and I'm really enjoying every moment of it. So, yeah, I haven't got many criticisms.
I'd like to speak to you once you finish Mass Effect 3.
Yeah,
I think it's incredible that you haven't been spoiled yet, but that's good. It'll be interesting to
I've heard that Mass Effect 2's got a perplexing ending as well. Like, it's
It has a good ending, Mass Effect 2.
Mhm.
At least
I
by
mean,
comparison.
Sorry if anyone's listening who's still playing it or whatever, but I'm spoiler perhaps, but I'm convinced Cerberus, the elusive man, are complete fuckers, and something terrible is going to go down. I have no idea what to expect from there. I'm these collectors. I'm sure you can deal with them. Yeah, we'll see.
Okay.
These collectors, I'm sure you can deal with them.
Very enlightening.
Iggledy pickledy poo collectors. Yeah. So
Alright.
yeah, that's what I've been playing basically. Not much else. Have you been playing anything, watching anything else?
I've been reading the Witcher books.
You've been reading the Witcher books.
Mhm.
Okay.
And I finished the first one, Last Wish, and I'm on Sword of Destiny now.
Okay.
The first book is actually kind of great, really. Like
Yeah.
and it honestly, after reading it and comparing it with the show, it makes me hate the show even more. That like
Oh no.
the book has genuinely like pretty good writing, and all they had to do was just take it from the book and put it in the show. And it's so frustrating that they didn't do that because this book, like, it could be such a great show, and the fact that we're not going to be able to get it anymore is sad to me. I really recommend you read the books. I think you'd enjoy them, at least the first one, The Last Wish, because the first two books are actually anthologies, and they're just like self-contained stories about contracts that Geralt has to fulfill in the world. Really
Interesting.
Mhm.
Cool. I will look into that. They do seem like to be good. You mentioned to me before the translation is not the best though, and sometimes
There are just some iffy parts. Like, for example, um, when it comes to the fight scenes, the writer, I don't know if it's the translation, but he gets very repetitive with his description of the action. And all he really does is just describes Geralt doing pirouettes in a semicircle every single fight. And I just thought that was a bit funny. But yeah, he
Cool.
uses the word semicircle and pirouette over and over.
The only other thing I can mention, I suppose, that remains mainstream is I watched Army of the Dead on Netflix.
Oh, me too.
Yeah. I thought it was okay. What did you think, man? Did you enjoy it?
It was okay. I feel like it's a paradoxical movie because they wanted to because they didn't make it so that you can actually take the emotional core of the film seriously and like the whole levity of it seriously, and then they say, oh well, like, turn your brain off, it's just a film to have fun a little bit. But if it's just a film to have fun with, why do you include all of these cliches and character moments which people have seen before and which just slow down the movie? I think it would have been a much tighter, more focused and enjoyable movie if they would have cut out the melodrama, really.
Yeah,
Because I didn't get anything out of Dave Bautista's relationship with his daughter and all that.
But
And
to the other angle, I felt this was actually one of his best performances that I've
no,
seen.
sorry. Let me clarify. It's not about Dave Bautista. I think his performance was really
Is it the
good.
script per se?
I'm a huge fan of Dave Bautista. I think, as opposed to maybe some other ones, he's a wrestler who actually has shown that he's a good actor, and he should be in movies. But
Yeah.
that's enough.
But it's a good film to switch your brain off and kind of like just have a bit of fun, I guess.
But yeah, the opening credits are fun with Viva Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And as usual, because I don't care what anybody thinks about Zack Snyder, the dude can shoot a film. Like, the cinematography is really fucking good.
Yeah.
Visually, the film is good, despite there being some dead pixels on the screen. Did you hear about that?
I didn't.
No, did you
I'm
notice
smiling.
it?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Like, in some of the scenes, there were there was a dead pixel on the screen. And I looked and I was like, what the fuck, did my TV fail already? But apparently not. There was a faulty sensor on one of the cameras for a few scenes. And so there's a dead pixel on the screen. But yeah.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Wow. Yeah. So, okay. I guess that merits the conclusion of this section. We ain't got much else to say. Have you? Yeah. And the last but not least section, we're going to talk about a pitch of an action movie you and I want to put forward, and we're going to try to combine some of your ideas with mine and see what the fuck happens, basically. So
yeah, just to clarify, mine has action in it, but it's more of a fixer film, really, than a full blow. It's more like a Jason Bourne Identity thing. Than,
all right.
Yeah.
I'd like to also say I haven't per se got a fully fledged idea. I've got some ideas. So what I might do is I might
Yeah.
expand upon something you say, etc. So
Mhm.
it's pretty much an improv section, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Let's face it.
And mine is less of a pitch. It has like some story elements. It's more about how I would approach a film like this.
Yeah.
So yeah. Should I go
Okay.
first, or should you?
I
you wanna
welcome
go?
you to, because I need
Okay.
some. Yeah, that's fine with me.
So something that became very clear to me after watching Tenet was how action movies should be done. And I feel like the thing that hooks people to the movie is less about the spectacle, but more about creating the right scenario where the audience member feels like he's right there with the main character. That's something that I really felt with Tenet. I felt like I was like right there experiencing it with him, like not through his eyes, but I was there with him. It felt like I was a participant in the movie in a sense. And I feel like that's something that films don't do enough. That's just like to preface the approach. So the way I would do the film is actually quite different to how most people do it. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but with a lot of action movies and fixer movies, what they do is they introduce a character and what he does, right? So if he's a hitman or something like that, they introduce him and they show him on a job, right? To show us what he does. And then something dramatic happens and it derails his life, and then it creates intrigue and it turns into a story involving the character, but not about what he does anymore. It turns into something different. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, yeah. And I always felt, as an audience member, I always feel kind of disappointed when I see that, because like I wanted to see him do that more. I wanted to see him on a job more. Like I wanted to see him like in that beginning part where he has everything figured out. And I feel like the reason they do that is because there's maybe it's true, but I feel it's a misconception that the plot needs to move forward with intrigue constantly. That's what people think, which is why they can't allow that first half of a fixer movie to happen forever, because they assume that people will get bored because there's no plot. I would do it differently. I would do it where it's not just about a hitman who kills people. It's about a fixer who does a variety of things, be it overthrowing governments in foreign countries, or blackmail, or extortion, or manipulating financial mechanisms. It's about him within this world full of rich douchebags, and it's about him getting immersed in their degenerate lifestyles and helping them out with different issues they have. He does everything he needs to do, and then he moves forward, right? And so basically what this does is, this would be a very expensive movie too, because I want it to be worldwide. I would like it to be where you can experience the criminal underbelly, the cultural criminal underbelly of a lot of different nations, pretty much. And I would like the way the film is shot to change according to the culture in which you're in. And I'd like the music to change according to the culture in which you're in. Maybe even change aspect ratio based on where you are, maybe even change the tone of the film based on where you are. And it would be just through this one singular character, which is kind of has like the disposition of somebody like Geralt from The Witcher, pretty much. And I want the character to be incredibly well funded. I don't want it to be another story like Mission Impossible where the main character goes rogue, you know? And I want him to be like in the Hitman games. I want him to be well funded, and I want him to have a contact in every single place he goes to, and everything he does is varied. Like I say, it's not only about murdering people. And I agree that if it was just this, it could get boring. But I don't want the intrigue, the main intrigue or plot of the film, to be his story or what he sees through his eyes. I want there to be a backdrop to the film, which I would introduce at the beginning of the film, which shows a major paradigm shift in like the global just structure of organized crime. So I would like stuff like maybe a father killing his son so that he doesn't take over his empire or something like that. And it would be like just a complete restructuring paradigm shift of the criminal organization, which would end in some kind of terrorist act, pretty much. And the audience would know about it from the backdrop, but what the main character does doesn't directly relate to it, because he is not somebody who is in control or in power. He simply works for them. So it wouldn't be about him. It would be actually somebody else's story, but he would just sometimes interact with it just by chance of what he's doing. So he would maybe slightly influence the course of the main plot line without being aware that he's doing so.
Very interesting.
Yeah. And so
very nuanced.
Yeah, like it would impact the backdrop of the film, but that's not what he does. And so what that allows is to allow quite an operatic, classic gangster tale of politics and corruption to happen in the background, whilst the main thing is like a Tarantino flick or like a Guy Ritchie flick, so which something fun about doing different things, and it would be like layered. And I don't really know where to take it from there, but that's like how I would approach it.
It's brilliant. You've really thought this through. Wow, that's really cool because it combines so many layers to make such a compelling film where you not only are interested by the sheer, like, almost John Wick-like moments of the movie, you've also got this compelling underbelly that eventually you're like, oh, when's he finally going to get into this universe?
Exactly.
When's he finally going to hit through the door? Really cool. Like it. Okay. So instead of me providing any of my ideas, because I don't have anything that's as good as that, Pete, that's fucking awesome.
I'm sure you, okay.
I don't. However, I would like to ask, what do you imagine this portrayal of your fixer would be? This hitman, Agent 47, this John Wick, what does he look like? What's he like? What's his personality? Because I think that's what's more important for me when I create a film, is like, what's the character like?
I want him to be like just a straight up mercenary, really. That's what I want him to be. I want him to be somebody who's well educated enough to do the actions that he needs to do, the criminal actions, which involve stuff which isn't violence, because he does have those stuff which is about influencing governments, etc. I want him to be educated and intelligent enough to be able to do that, but I also want him to be physically capable in order to do the wet work when it's necessary. I want him to be kind of like a young version of, have you seen The Irishman?
Yeah, of course.
A young version of Robert De Niro's character in that film, in a sense.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you noticed, but what Robert De Niro does in that film, he plays a fine line where you can't tell if he's a sociopath or not. You know what I mean? He seems like there's moments of humanity that happen throughout, but there's a constant sense of, is this guy really there? Does he feel anything for anyone? Is he a sociopath? And that's kind of why I said Geralt, because that is what Geralt's story really is. Is he just a person who kills for money and doesn't care about anything? Is he a sociopath with no emotions, or does he care? And I want him to be that kind of character, really. And I think a lot of the source of fun with the character will be from him coming up with genuinely creative solutions to problems, pretty much. It wouldn't be just about go here, put the gun to this guy's head and pull the trigger. It would be about figuring out the right way to do it within the circumstance, depending on the politics of that area. Yeah.
Sure. I was just thinking of the character from Game of Thrones who's friends with Tyrion, and I'm trying to think what his name is. His name.
Yeah. They made him the master of coin.
Bronn, isn't it?
Yeah, Bronn. I want him to be in the vein of Bronn, but maybe more intelligent.
But he doesn't have the. Well, he kind of is.
He is intelligent, but he has like simple ambition. I want him to his ambitions and motivations to seem like they perhaps could be more than that. That's all.
So we've got this character who takes on contracts beyond the scope of a standard fixer. He kind of does a bit of it. He's a jack of all trades, really. But instead of that, he really does it for why. That's what I'm curious about. What's his motivations? Is he a psychopath? Because that's obviously something you could consider when creating a fixer. I mean, most of them probably are to a degree.
In real life, they're probably really unlikable, insane pieces of shit. Like,
do you actually think John Wick is a nice guy? Really?
No. No, you're right. Yeah.
So, but you know what? Me and you both recently, we watched Nobody, didn't we? And we thought it was pretty good. And I like the idea of a family man that's just got to the edge of his. What would you say? He's just got to the edge of it's crossed the line, and he just kind of explodes in like this midlife crisis way. I like that too. That's cool, but it doesn't really fit. I'm not saying it does, but I like the idea of someone who's kind of ordinary as well, and they just maybe they have a really nihilistic view of the world, and they manifest complete destruction because they fucking can get away with it and they're good at it. You know,
that's actually more what I was thinking. I don't want his motivations to be the thing where, I do it because I need to feed my family. You know, we've seen that so many times. I just don't want to see it anymore. I think we've reached a point where audiences are like, yeah, I have a family too, and I don't kill people, mate. So I think we're over that. I want there to be, like you said, like an element of him which kind of just enjoys what what he does, and he's good at it, pretty
Yeah.
much. Yeah,
Um,
and the fact that what he does is morally reprehensible doesn't register with him. He doesn't care. This is just his job, and he's good at it.
So
And yeah,
one thing I want to, like I said, guys, I'm not going to bring forward any of my pitches today because I don't have any ideas, but I have some ideas to build on this one. One thing I want to know, when this guy executes his, let's say he has to kill this guy who currently is in the way of the plot or something to look, whatever it may be actually, but is he the kind of individual who's really good at it and he does it masterfully, like where he kind of isn't even seen or injured or anything? Or is it the opposite, where he just gets beaten to a pulp, but he still gets the job done? Like, I like that one. I think that's less done. And from Nobody, the recently we watched, I like that pursuit where he's just kind of like a raw person just going through.
yeah. I mean, the thing is, the reality of the situation is that a lot of the things that he would be required to do, nobody could do them spotlessly because it's just it's ridiculous. Like, I want him to know what he's doing, like to be a professional, but he puts himself in, like Indiana Jones, like how Indiana Jones, he gets hurt a lot. And he gets in situations where he actually he gets scared, where he feels like he could be fucked, but
he's got
still,
fridge.
But he still goes ahead and does it anyway. I want him to be kind of like that, where he still gets involved in these situations despite the danger of it. Yeah.
So a couple of thoughts I'm thinking about for like maybe another idea is just, what if you had it from an antagonist perspective? I don't know. What if you have a fixer who's evil and his objective is to kill some good guys, some people who are honorable, and he's not, I guess he has to be an anti-hero, otherwise you're watching some sort of really disgusting horror movie, right? So
I mean, I enjoy that. I honestly, I don't actually need the whole thing where the main character is relatable at all. I can, if the story, think about it. I actually think we both like this film, The House That Jack Built.
Yeah, I liked it.
Unlikable, definitely not an anti-hero, completely unlikable villain, and it still works.
Okay, so let's go along with this idea then. So my idea is, what if you present to your audience an idea of a fixer? So just to use a very cliched example, imagine the Russian mob guy who you call Vladislav, you'd get it done. And it's all about him traveling to America to kill one person who betrayed another person. It doesn't matter what the plot is, but the point is, you're seeing it from the eyes of a bad person, and he's ruthless. He kills on sight. He's what would you say? Unidentifiable? No, not really unidentifiable. He's just completely on another level to everyone. He just kills without regression. Everyone dies. He's pristine and perfect. And what would you think of that kind of story? Is it compelling enough to see someone?
Granted, the way this works generally in the real world is not because there's like a range of like professionals or something. There's not a lot of people who are interested in doing this kind of work. It's you kind of get who's gonna do it.
Yeah.
And generally, you also get the person who's expendable. Really. But have you seen a film called Killing Them Softly?
I haven't seen Killing Them Softly.
Okay, it's like that's kind of the type of thing in that film that I want the main character to do, where it involves like members of Congress or politicians and different things they're trying to cover up. And
so there's a lot of corruption.
And the main character, it's not the main character, but the fixer in that film is played by Brad Pitt. And like that's kind of the type of guy I'm thinking about. He's a very nihilistic character. You have to see the film. I think
Brad Pitt chooses his roles, doesn't he? Like,
he really does.
He does.
He rarely does stuff just for money. I feel like he did it like early on when he was younger. He started in a lot of roles where he played the pretty guy just so he could get the clout, and then he said, "Okay, I can do what I want now." So yeah,
it was similar with Pattinson, and then he's doing The Lighthouse and now Batman. I feel like a lot of pretty boys do this, unfortunately. How about we try to make some concluding ideas, because I really, really like this idea you've come up with this week, and I really I'm sorry to say, I can't top it with anything.
And if you want anything more concrete, I can think of a scene in the film, which would be the opening scene.
All right,
Actually, this is kind of what inspired the whole idea. And it's very weird, but this is how it works with me. I listen to a song and it inspires like
me too.
a whole movie, right? Yeah. I feel like this happens with a lot of people, but nobody really talks about it. But like,
if anyone, I'd like to just share, if anyone listening has an idea for a great scene in a movie that has been inspired by a song, please reach out to us and let us know what it is. We'd love to know. Continue.
But do you know "Welcome to the Machine" by Pink Floyd?
Yeah, I do know "Welcome to the Machine" by Pink Floyd. Yeah.
Yeah. So that song kind of inspired it. Where once again, that's kind of where the layering came from, because the song is partly just a very just nihilistic and anti-establishment rock song for a while, which has like ballad elements, but then through that there's like these really loud pummeling synths which kick in and which take it to a new level. And I was imagining where the opening would be, as I said, this paradigm shift in the criminal world, and you would be witnessing like all of these despicable people just restructuring their organizations and everything. While "Welcome to the Machine" plays, and then interspersed with cuts, it would be about a mission that the Fixer is on, and it would be like kind of hypnotic in the way it's shot, and I want like a Nolan film, like Tenet, really. And it would be just a mix of those two things. That's kind of how I imagine the intro. Yeah.
I just wanted to say about something I'd love to see in an intro to a Fixer movie, and it's based on a couple of films I loved. It's kind of a weird blend, but I assume you've seen The Gentleman. We've talked about
of course.
Yeah. So The Gentleman intro with the smoke, flames, and the characters kind of going through the scene, but also kind of like a zombie land kind of. You know, where you have, for example, the characters that are running towards the screen, and it's slow. I remember the slow motion "For Whom the Bells Tolls" plays. I was thinking, imagine them running, and then they get shot, and then the smoke comes through, and then you see like guns falling, and I just thought it would be a good combination of slow motion effects with like some smoke, fire, and flame. It would look cool. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yes. That's what I was thinking. It's something like that. Yeah. I do like that. That's cool.
I mean, the intro to Army of the Dead kind of does a Zombieland thing, doesn't it? So,
I think that's where I kind of thought about it from. Yeah. Okay. Well, Fixer was pretty fun to do, but next week we should do something I can contribute more to. Maybe we should do a horror movie again.
I mean, we can do whatever.
We can do horror.
It doesn't have to be a theme. I just said Fixer because that was my idea, really. But
no, I'm absolutely happy you chose it. That was a really cool idea. It was really cool. Yeah. I like the idea of this underlying corruption thing as well. You know, you don't get to see many films that are, would you say, character driven, where the plot is beneath the character, and then they kind of come and coalesce together.
Exactly. And I also want to like add this whole air of like an ironic conspiracy, you know, like a criminal organization.
What do you mean?
And like a criminal organization in hands with politicians that spans across the whole world. You know, it's like a very ironic conspiracy thing. Like it kind of pokes holes at itself and
it's
disintegrates
kind of a popular thing as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You'll find a lot of people in life have that opinion. I found that they believe everything is rigged across the world, like
which it absolutely isn't. But
there's an argument you can make, I think.
No, but that's kind of what the film would do, where that's the idea, but it would then go to show that it's really just a bunch of like chaos and things which happen, which impacts another thing, and then somebody has to cover it up. It's really just connecting things which aren't connected, really. Most conspiracies they're not like this genius thing, you know, that is organized by people sitting in a dark room smoking cigars. It's just conjecture. It's just the situation people find themselves in. Yeah.
Okay. To conclude, I wanted to ask you one question about the action movie genre, and that is one question about fixers and about comedy. And I've always thought the two naturally go together.
Yeah. Have you seen Barry?
No.
No.
No. No.
Do you like the idea of the two coming together?
Yeah, it's something.
Watch Barry then, dude. You would love the shit out of Barry. You know what it is? It's
I do
Bill
not.
Hader. Bill Hader.
Oh,
Bill Hader playing a hitman. But like, just trust me, you'd like it.
all right, guys. I've got to go now. I've got to go watch this. All I was going to say is that it's something that I think one movie has never before been able to put the two together, but maybe this is what it is. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I haven't got actually anything to say besides that. You've kind of provided me with the material to disprove my point. So I'm going to watch Barry. It sounds interesting.
I mean, there's an element of that in Dexter too, right?
Well,
that's more killer. That's serial killer. Yeah,
I don't
that's
know.
not
I don't
action.
know. Like, it depends how the comedy's done as well. Like, is it done where like the character isn't trying to be funny? It's instead a result of the situation. It's part of the comedic surroundings, or is it instead
like
what the character intends to do?
Like Edgar Wright?
Yeah.
You know, the whole stuff. Yeah.
That's based on surroundings and imagery, and instead like something along the lines of. I hate to use Kick-Ass as an example, but I will. Kick-Ass is like where what the character does is funny, and the surroundings.
Kick-Ass is a good film. I thought it was funny. Yeah.
The second one wasn't.
I haven't seen it.
The second one was terrible.
I haven't seen it, but the first one, as far as I remember, the first one was pretty dope. Like,
it was okay.
There's that scene
I
where
think the second one
there's that scene where
it.
he tries to stop those dudes who are beating on another guy, and Omen by Prodigy.
Oh yeah,
playing.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
and
that's cool.
That was the most funny fight scene.
Yeah,
it was so stupid. Like when the dude picks up the trash can and tries to. That was funny. Yeah.
What else could we? I feel like we need to add a few bits of more context to the action pitch here. So yeah, for me, I'd like to see more comedy in action movies, because here's the thing with an action movie. Once the best action sequence has been performed, and okay, listen, this is my view. It's always it's a roller coaster ride of explorative choreography, and once a certain set is finished, most of the time there's a gap. And for me, it's like, okay, you need to allow us to understand more of the character or the plot and make it good, which a lot of them fail at doing, which is why I'm saying this. And therefore, bring in some comedy, make it funny. Bring in, I don't know, maybe the
comedy is also easier to do, really.
Yeah, it's also cheaper as well. Yeah.
However, you say that, but that's kind of what Marvel films do, right?
I know. I actually thought you would say that, but what I was thinking more is like maybe the killer's incapable of like tying his shoelaces and cooking eggs because he's so focused on stabbing this guy. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm of the opinion, which might be controversial, but I don't think action movies
and comedy go together.
No. I don't think pure action movies work.
Okay,
really, like for example, with my pitch, it's not really an action movie. It's a political espionage crime thriller.
It's very good,
which has action in it. Like in my experience, films which have action in it but aren't action movies work best. There's very few instances.
I'm trying to think of one
where just a pure action movie works. I can think of one, which is Mad Max Fury Road. That's a pure action movie, and
but that's also adventure. And it's also
is it? It's mostly action, isn't it?
I mean, they put action and adventure together nowadays, so I don't really know. But yeah, it's action.
But that's
it's
the only
also
one
adventure.
I can think of. I was gonna say Indiana Jones, but then that's adventure. Also that's adventure. So I can only think of Mad Max Fury Road in terms of pure action.
So when we say it's purely action, should we clarify? We're referring to stuff like The Expendables.
Yeah.
We're referring to Die Hard. We're referring to movies like this of this substance where it's just shooting and killing and. Cool.
And one-liners. Yeah.
One-liners.
Yeah.
I'll be back, for example. Well, Terminator is a good example, actually, to be honest.
Terminator is the perfect example.
It's a really good movie. Yeah, and it's...
okay, I forgot about that. Terminator 2. That's
Terminator 2 is very good.
And I can think of one more. The Raid. The Raid is a good one. The Raid is an Indonesian film about this SWAT... not really SWAT, but something akin to SWAT. The SWAT team, which is sent to this... like rundown building project.
Oh, I've heard of this film. I've heard of this. Yeah. And they have to.
I can't remember exactly, but I think they're sent in to extract someone. Mm-hmm. And it should be easy. There are a bunch of well-trained SWAT guys. They're just go into a shitty building and extract someone. but they get trapped in this building with all the people who live there, and all of them are fucking criminals, and they have to fight their way out of
Is it
this.
good?
Very good. And they have to fight their way out of this like very tight space. And the choreography is insane, and it's a pure action film, which is really good, frankly. And I honestly, and the Raid 2 is also very good, actually. But the Raid 2 is no longer the same style. The Raid 2 is more of a typical gangster film, really.
Okay. Pete, I think I've thought of the best way to finish the episode. And that is to discuss how a fixer concept like what you mentioned could work in a game. Because obviously we talked a lot about games today.
This is where we're gonna have disagreements, I think, because I think that's already been done perfectly. Hitman. Yeah, I think the World of Assassination trilogy is the best way. It's a damn good way for this to be done, really. I think they're almost perfect.
I agree with you. It's just I don't think Hitman works as well as it does as a game. I think it's more of a movie, the experience of Hitman. It feels more like a movie to me when I play those kinds of games. I feel like Splinter Cell Assassin's Creed had some ideas.
Splinter Cell was so good.
Yeah, it was good.
They keep on teasing us.
They stopped making them.
But they keep on teasing us like they might be releasing a new one. But then it turns out to be a mobile game, or Sam Fisher is going to be in Rainbow Six Siege or something.
Oh, that's so sad.
That was.
They actually tweeted like we're going to reveal something very exciting about one of your favorite games soon.
Rainbow Six Siege.
So I guess I wanted to just kind of say, like, I feel we haven't had the perfect stealth system game. I don't know, Dishonored was there, but Dishonored was too much more in fantasy for me. If we're talking about the realm of the reality, I think Hitman was the closest, best stealth game we've had.
Social stealth, yeah.
Yeah,
sure. But Splinter Cell was really good too. I agree. I feel like that's the trifecta, really. It's Splinter Cell, Hitman, and Dishonored, really. I think Dishonored is great. Like the level design that goes into Dishonored is very impressive. Yeah,
very detailed games, and like what was the something mansion that was beautiful.
Sokolov. No, not Sokolov. The other guy. I know what you're talking about.
The
Clockwork Soldiers, but I forget the Jindosh's mansion.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
All right then. Well, anything else to add, Pete, to the podcast for today?
No, I think we've said enough.
I think we did well today. We covered a lot. This is our new structure. So we're still getting used to it because we usually split everything up into individual episodes. But this way we can get everything done more faster and swiftly. So thank you, Pete, for the conversation. I really enjoyed hearing about your idea. And
same to
Red Pony out. That felt weird.
Thank you.